Hi, good to see you again. In this video, I want to respond to an email I got from Phil. So, hi Abby, my name is Philip and I live in Virginia, USA. I found the video you did with about the values of elicitation and mapping meaning was extraordinary and very useful. Are there some simple questions that we can ask to elicit away from values? Well, eliciting away from values is not quite as simple as eliciting towards values, but it's quite easy to do and it's a lot of fun. So we have two types of values. There's those we move towards and there's those we move away from. And this creates like a push-pull dynamic in our decision-making process. To elicit towards values, we first choose a context and then we ask the question. For example, like what's important to you in an X, for example. What is important to you in life? What's important to your relationship? What's important to you in the job? What's important to you about your nation? So you elicit an exhaustive list of values and then you rank them in order of importance. For example, if you could only have one of those values, which one would it be? And then if you could have that one plus one more, which would it be? So you force a ranking of the values at the level of the unconscious mind. Now, if you ask, why is that value important to you? It will give you further information. It may also give you another towards or an away from value. And our towards and away from values, they help us move away from a negative future. And they give us a motivation to take action to move towards a positive future. So we all have or should have a negative compelling future and a positive compelling future. And some values don't become evident until you consider a worst case scenario or until a worst case scenario becomes a possibility. For example, in a marriage, and I'm not saying this is a worst case scenario, just that this is a situation which will bring into play some hidden values. So in a marriage or a relationship, when you have children, it will change everything. And if your values are not in alignment, there will be much conflict. So you want to elicit away from values. So if you want to elicit away from values, it helps to start by considering a worst case scenario. So for example, you say to your partner, let's say we decide to get married or have a lifelong relationship. And then we have some children. What is important to you about raising children? What else is important to you about raising children? And then ask why about each of the responses. And you make sure you get all the conditions that need to be met for each value to be fulfilled, because even though you may use the same word, what it means to both of you could be different. And then you compare the sameness and the difference between you and the other. Okay, so when things get bad, in that type of situation, what is important to you? What is important for you to avoid? What don't you want to happen? And then you ask why about the responses. You could also ask, what does that mean to you? So you ask meaning questions. And then once you get that, then what will you get to have and to experience? Or what could be the possible outcome of that? And what could be the possible outcome of that? So you run a core outcome chain to get the highest value and meaning. Now, you've got to consider both best case and worst case scenarios. So if you look out at your part of the world and all looks good, then you might not even consider away from values. So you need to consider a worst case scenario. And so this is probably related to the optimism, pessimism meta program. Some people are naturally optimistic while others are more pessimistic. You know, they both have an upside and a downside, but I think in evolutionary terms, I think the pessimism trait has more significance for the perpetuation of your genes in your group. Like if it wasn't for the pessimists, you wouldn't put away food, or money or savings or fix the roof, because look, it's all sunny today. Look, I don't have anyone here to interview. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm trying to run through this procedure on myself. So let's choose the context of politics and government. And then what I want you to do is I want you to listen. Maybe you write it down. Start writing down my towards values and away from values. You get them as single words and as little phrases. So, Abby, what do you want in a government? So I want a government that works for the betterment of the society. I want small bureaucracy, limited government, a free market, no corruption, no cronyism, no sucking off the system. I want welfare support for those in need and education and training to help the lower classes and disadvantaged move up in the world and become more self-sufficient. The focus should be on helping the individual, the family, and small business become more self-sufficient by providing services that do just that. And the welfare and support services shouldn't be part of a corrupt system of sucking off the taxpayer and building a business of welfare and support services. It needs to work for the people and bring about positive improvements. I want a government that protects our basic rights to liberty of expression, assembly, and freedom of speech. I also want the right to protect myself, my property, and my friends and family. This may be significant since the Australian government is considering bringing in a new constitution. I want politicians who have the guts to stand up and protect our national interest. Politicians who know how to say no and stand up to an aggressive foreign power or anything which threatens to destroy our society. All right, so we asked what is important for you in a government, and you would have got in that there's a number of towards and away from values. Okay, now we ask a different question. And Abby, what don't you want in the government? Okay, so I don't want career politicians who lust after power, money, and prestige. I don't want the government controlling every aspect of my life. I don't want politicians spending their time attacking other politicians as a means to elevate their status and get themselves elected at the next election. You know, it's easy to see how some politicians spend all their time and taxpayers' money to move themselves up the dominance hierarchy and get themselves into a position of power. And this needs to be exposed and stopped, because this form of politics is all about the politician and nothing about the individual or the society as a whole. Who knows whether it's possible? You know, who knows whether it's possible? This is where the pessimism part of me comes out. Anyway, what I want congruence. So we get millionaire politicians, celebrities, claiming they want to bring down capitalism and get a better deal for the man in the street. Yet in fact, they're actually talking about themselves and fail to see they are part of the problem. So I want greater self-awareness in politics so that the politicians can better understand why they do what they do. And probably never going to happen that politicians be becoming self-aware. But anyway, but this is the types of answers you'll get when you ask people like what's important to you in a government or what do you want to avoid in a government. You'll get these things. And then you want to pull out the towards and away from values, and then you rank them in order of importance. And then you can have further discussion about that. Now, if you persevered with me, you should be able to actually identify political and moral values which influence my decision-making process. Now, when you elicit values, it's a really good idea to write them down on a large piece of paper and then make notes for each value. So you get a value and then you ask, well, what's important to you about this? Or what does this value mean to you? So then you see how they relate to other values. And then you can ask, well, once you get this value, then what do you get to have an experience? So you can run a core outcome chain. You do it on a large piece of paper, it'll make a lot of sense. And I guess I should mention, like on the political spectrum, there's a political compass test. 3.5% to the left and of centre, and I'm 14% libertarian. So that would make me a centrist libertarian. Now, I can't speak for other centrist libertarians, but I embrace aspects of both political left and right. At times I'll vote for leftist parties, and other times I'll vote for conservative parties. And it all depends what's happening in the world, my country, and my values guide me in making those decisions. So in the same way that you might ask a prospective partner about having children, in terms of politics, you have the listener entertain some possible future event. You say, well, let's say we have this situation in our society, or this happens in the world. If that was to occur, which political party would you vote for and why? So just to summarise, you start up, you choose the context. You ask what is important to you in that context. You ask what's important for you to avoid in that context. And then you just keep asking questions like why and what does that mean to you? And you run a core outcome chain to get to the highest value, and you'll get like a bunch of highest values, which you can then compare to other people. And then you explore worst case scenarios or extreme situations. You map out the values and the meaning. Something like that. Okay, so let's leave it there. I hope this video has been helpful. Please leave your comments in the box below or send me an email from my website. All the best to you, and I look forward to seeing you again. And remember to keep on challenging everything for the truth. I've spent my entire life doing that and would like to share some of my discoveries with you. Whether you're an atheist or believe in a higher power, my book on God is sure to get you thinking. And part and parcel of spirituality is learning how to work with your unconscious mind, such that you can quieten the mind and get yourself to sleep when you need to. And that includes the ability to banish bad habits like cigarettes, marijuana, alcohol, chocolate, and overeating. And as a foundation to a fulfilling life, I believe everyone needs to learn how to work with their unconscious mind, how to explore deep trance and states of deep meditation. If you want to connect, you can find me on Facebook at Abbey Eagle School of Meditation.